What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. As advertised, I have two great Beamer men on the show today. One is a Hall of Fame coach who had a huge impact on myself and so many players and so many other coaches. Another one is my longtime friend and teammate who you guys have some battles with, and football, college football game. Also, somebody I'm very proud of to see the head coach at South Carolina, University of South Carolina, Shane Beamer, and the Hall of Fame coach Frank Beamer. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
This is great.
Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Great to see you. I was wondering how long it was going to take you to bring up some of the old PlayStation battles back in the old apartment complex.
Yeah, collegiate suites, man. It's crazy. And I got some old pictures of you and I and Tim Schnecker and Engelberg I'm going to post on social media after this interview post. But it is a blessing to see you both. Coach, this is actually not my first time interviewing you. I interviewed you several years ago at ACC Media Day when I was doing some work with Kyle Bailey. But anyway, we're going to talk about your both legacies. This is a big interview for me because I've been part of what happened at Virginia Tech, a great legacy, a great program, and it influenced both Shane and I into what we're doing now. So, Coach, I'll start with you. You're retired now, and you are a Hall of Fame coach. But I do want to ask you this. When you look and now that you're retired, you're a grandfather, you have a beautiful family. When you look at Virginia Tech now with the facilities and the buildings and all the things going on, what comes to mind? Did you ever still get caught up in being surprised how big the program has become?
Well, I'm really proud. We've had great leadership. All the athletic directors I've been associated with have been great, not just good, I think great. I think, and with that, you can see the facilities that we have. They planned and they raised money, and most of these facilities are with what money we put into it. It's not state money. A lot of the facilities are. So, we just got a lot of proud alumni, and Virginia Tech is just a great school with great people, and I said that to so many people that comes and it's looking at the school, or if I'm trying to sell a recruit, I said, you may not be able to put your finger on it exactly, but it's just different here. It's a caring here at Virginia Tech and a respect here at Virginia Tech, and I'm proud and very fortunate to have been associated with a place I love for so many years.
Absolutely. And Shane, again, you were around Blacksburg. You were there from day one. I came in 1994, but you being, his son, you saw Coach and his staff, Coach Height and so many great coaches on his coaching staff build that program from the late 80s into the millennium and ACC conference play. When you look at Virginia Tech now, because you've been in Oklahoma and you're now in South Carolina, you've been almost everywhere. You paid your dues as a coach. When you look at Virginia Tech and that time as a young man, how did it influence you as far as your coaching profession and your mentality as a coach and just as when you were a player?
Yeah, in so many ways. I mean, I can remember the early years and playing in front of people. Think of Lane Stadium and packed houses and all that. And I can remember playing Cincinnati out there, I think in 1987, there was about 20,000 people in the stands. So from a pride standpoint, as a son, alumnus, all that stuff, to see where it went was pretty awesome. But probably more than anything is just now that I'm in coaching, and Dad talks about it all the time, and it's so true, is it was a great lesson to me of what a thin line it is between winning and losing. And he's said that a million times, and he's right. From 1992, when I think we led 6 games in the fourth quarter, or led or tied, and ended up losing or tying them, to 1993 with the Independence Bowl, and the rest is history. Just how close we were in 92, and then 93 was a great season and all that as well. So just that, and understanding that it's hard to win at this level, and you'll never hear me apologize for winning ugly or anything like that, because it showed me early on just how hard it is to win, for sure. So that was a great lesson for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, you talk about, what it means, relationships. I remember so many things. I have so many quotes I still carry in my personal and professional life, in my business with Victory Life, as a father of three, as a husband, as a coach of my son's teams in AAU basketball and football. And you had so many things like, if you don't act special, people will treat you special. Adversity reveals character and faith. Um, those things still stick with so many people. And you've had an influence on so many men and women. You taught us how to interact with people, even from the janitorial staff to the cooks to the people that clean the building. Um, Now you have so many guys that are coaching. J.C. Price is coaching, Pearson Prelo, Anthony Midget. You have Lauren Johnson, who is arguably the best high school coach in the state of Virginia at Highland Springs. Your son, obviously. And I know I didn't name everybody. There's so many guys that are coaching. When you look at all these young men who are now fathers like myself and mentors and leaders in their community, and that's just in football. You have other guys, that are coaching, and they're and doctors and lawyers and engineers. It's not just sports. What does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? Excuse me.
Well, to see people that you take out of high school, and I really do think as a coach, you have an influence on people. And I think it's at a time in their life that they're looking, what I want to be, how do I want to be, they hopefully they got a good mom and dad back home. Some mom comes from one parent families, but I think to be able to take them and not only tell them, but show them what their life should be and how they should respect people, and how you need to work hard if you're going to get results, or put your dedication into it, and then to see those guys come out on the other end a different person, a successful person in whatever they do, whether it's going on to play in the NFL or becoming a lawyer or a doctor or whatever their life, whichever way the life they go in their life. But to see them be good people, that's what I take great pride in. I couldn't tell you how many wins we had at Virginia Tech. I mean, that number is not what is really important to me. What's really important to me is all the good people that came through here and still give back to Virginia Tech and come back to Virginia Tech and are proud of Virginia Tech. So that's what I'm really proud of.
Absolutely, and I am as well. Shane, I want to ask you this question, and Coach, I'll ask you. We had a lot of former Virginia Tech players on the Legacy Spotlight. We've even had Bruce Garnes, we've had J.C. Price, Cornell Brown, Ronya Whitaker, Michael Vick, Aaron Rouse, and so many other guys who have been on the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. Everybody I've asked, and Shane, I'll start with you. When you look back on those years we were together at Tech, and then even after I left, and when you look at Tech, the landscape of the conference wins and the moments, share with me, because I've never even asked you this question. What are some moments you remember when you think, man, that season was special, or that game, I will never forget that game, whether it's a win or a loss? Are there some moments you look at Virginia Tech when you think about, wow, that was a great season, or that was a great time for me? I'll never forget that game.
And there's so many. Because remember, when I saw it from the age of 10 until now, and I'm about to turn 44. So, there's so many. And to go back to that previous question as well, it's I think you see so many former players that are in coaching because it's a great profession, but I think so many of those guys, myself included, like you named, saw the impact that you can have on people like Dad and his coaching staff did, and the fact that they were great coaches, but they cared about us as players and all those players as people, first and foremost, and that you're in it for the right reasons. And I think all those guys are certainly in it for the right reasons, and a lot of that goes back to what they learned when they were there at Virginia Tech, and even now you talk about some of the sayings. I find myself saying them now at the same time as a coach. And Every time I say it, I know Torian Gray, who's on my staff, T. Gray's in the room with me, and he knows where I heard that from as well with some of these things. We actually had a walkthrough last night, and we were teaching our guys how to block a punt. And some of the techniques that Dad said for years, I was saying, and I'm like, well, I know T. Gray's hearing that for the first time, but I think there's so many moments. I mean, you can talk about all the big wins, tough losses, but you know, I wasn't on the team. I was a junior in high school, but 1993 when it all started with that Independence Bowl year, and everybody talks about the Independence Bowl, but it was Syracuse came to town, and we were going to have to beat Syracuse to get in position to get accepted to the Independence Bowl. It's kind of like if you don't beat Syracuse, you're probably not going to go. And remember what a challenge that was going to be to beat Syracuse, but then to win that game and get accepted, to the Independence Bowl was really cool and stayed with me for sure. I think for me as like a son, even I can remember one of the first away games we had when Dad took the job at Virginia Tech was down here in Columbia, South Carolina, at Williams-Brice Stadium across the street from where I am. And just remember, at that point, he had been the head coach at Murray State. We had a couple, I think we opened up with Clemson, which is his very first game in Blacksburg in '87. But then coming down here was the first time you're like, wow, we're a part of a big time football program playing in front of 80,000 people here at South Carolina. So that's a moment that's kind of come back full circle with me. And then, I go back to that 95 season as well. I was telling somebody this story yesterday, to start out 0-2 and never flinch and just staying steady. I had to do a Zoom podcast with a corporation yesterday, and they were talking about leadership qualities, and I just talked about steadiness in the face of adversity, and that's what that coaching staff was that week in 1995 when we were 0-2 and had lost to Boston College and lost to Cincinnati and had the Miami Hurricanes coming to town. And stayed steady, stayed the course, no panic, and then the team went out there and played like it on Saturday and beat Miami and didn't lose a game the rest of the season. So we could have a whole show on wins and losses, but those are three that kind of stand out to me for different reasons, for sure.
No question. And Coach, for you, I know this is tough, and you don't, there's no right or wrong answer. And every Hokie I've had on this show, I've asked them the same question, and the answers vary. But for you, I'll just phrase it like this: what are some of your favorite moments in Blacksburg during your tenure as head coach in building the program and in your run, during your coaching time? What are some? Was it the '95 season, the '99 championship?
Yeah, I think the Sugar Bowl in '95 is the season was great, as Shane just talked about. But then we went and won the Sugar Bowl against Texas. And that was that was the one that kind of gave us a name. You beat a major opponent in a major bowl. And after that, we went to a lot of Sugar Bowls and Orange Bowls and Gator Bowls and so forth. So I think that has to be one. And then, I go back to the '99 national championship game. And the one regret I have as a coach at Virginia Tech is that we didn't get back and win it. And in that game, we were good enough to win it. We had good enough personnel to win that game, but against Florida State. But I think I thought back to the '90s when we played Florida State a lot and knew how great a talent they had. And that influenced me into some of my decisions during that game. We faked a punt, didn't get it, and now you give up field position. We faked a field goal, didn't get it, and gave up field position. So, and we didn't have to. We were good enough to beat them straight up, I believe. I think if we just played them and we'd have kicked the ball, played field position, I think in the end we would have won that. So I'm disappointed in some of my calls in that game, and then I'm disappointed in the fact that we never got back to win it. But we had a lot of great moments, a lot of firsts here, seeing our fans develop and give us that had the help we needed to win games. I mean, they were into it. You know,
Yeah.
they know when to be loud. They know when we got smart fans here, and just seeing them all come together, and we're all in this thing together. And I think when you go in that stadium and everybody starts jumping when you come out on the field, that's a true indication that we really are in this thing together. You know, the students, the alumni, the band, cheerleaders, the whole group. So, you know, I've got a lot of great memories, but none of them are probably better than coming out of that tunnel and seeing everybody jumping.
Yeah, that's so cool. That happened after I left, but I've been back. I've been on the sidelines back when you guys played Ohio State, and I remember
Yeah.
standing beside DJ Parker and David Wilson, looking up like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's still one of the best interests, excuse me, in college football. And
Yeah.
you know, Coach, I'll stay with you because you know your influence on, as I mentioned earlier in the interview, on guys like your son Shane and myself, and so many coaches, the sayings and quotes. Even as I joke with guys like Jay Haygood and Jamil Smith, we still imitate you with the papers. See the papers I got here rolled up. I would remember being a red shirt, seeing you, and I'm on the team and I'm a red shirt. It's my first year. I'm 17 years old, turning 18. And I remember looking at you for 5 years, have these rolled up papers, and you would put them in your back pocket, and then you would unfold them, and you would snap your fingers. And that was 20 years ago, and I still do this stuff. I still have the list, but that brings me to a point I want to make, and it is somewhat of a question. You are admired, like not, you are what they consider, someone that you won't see anymore as far as in the coaching profession. The longevity and the influence. I remember when you retired, and I watched your press conference with your beautiful wife, Cheryl, and you guys were at the podium, and the press, the media gave you a standing ovation. And you talk about so many players you influenced. Another thing you did is you were able to deal with so many personalities within your time at Virginia Tech. You had guys, as I mentioned, Jamel Smith, Jay Haygood, you had Jim Pine, all those different people, Roniel Whitaker, Jimmy Williams, Vince Hall, that had personalities, Cornell Brown, but yet you embraced them and you helped them become men, but also let them be who they were. When you look back, what was so unique and special to you to allow people to be who they were and also support them when they made mistakes? Was that something you always pride yourself in, or that something you realized as you coached?
Yeah, as I said, I think, you see these guys come in and they may be one way, their personality may be one way, and then when they leave, you see them grow and develop. But, regardless of who you are or what you are, I think you got to have a foundation. And the foundation, as you know, here was tell the truth. I'm going to, you can take it to the bank. If I tell you something, it's the truth. And if you tell me something, I'm expecting it to be the truth. And if you deal in that with that kind of relationship, then I think there's a trust that develops, and you can get through problems. You can get through issues. You can celebrate together after you've won a game in the locker room. So I think that was the biggest thing, that to have that foundation. Uh, you got different abilities, you got different people, they like different things, but you got to have something that you can build on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think truth, telling people the truth, was our foundation.
No question. Shane, we mentioned you being, at Tech from day one, as coach's son. And make no mistake about it, we can talk about the good times and the great memories, but I learned, and I'm a volunteer coach for my son's team. I'm not even close to what you and your dad do, but make no mistake about it, coaching is a tough profession. It's a what have you done for me lately business. And you followed in your father's footsteps. And I still remember your first time debuting when he had just finished having surgery at the Military Bowl. I was at the game on the sideline when Greg Stroman had that great game, and everybody, you debuted as the head coach while your father watched from the booth. You didn't run from it. Do you feel pressure? Did you ever feel like, you know what, I'm gonna do this till I figure something out? Or this is what you knew you were going to do when you were on those teams with me and playing ball? Like, did you know that's what you're gonna do? Because it's a tough profession.
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I saw the good and bad. I mean, you keep in mind my sophomore year in high school, Virginia Tech won 2 games. So it wasn't like we were just going bowl game after bowl game. My freshman year, Tech won 5. And then my sophomore year, we won 2. And then my junior year of high school was the Independence Bowl season. So I saw the good and bad, the highs and lows, and knew what I was getting into. But there's so many positives, and always kind of knew in the back of my mind that's what I wanted to do. It just kind of seemed natural and seemed like what I wanted to do. I mean, I had other things that interested me. When I finished college, I graduated in December and then started as a graduate assistant at Georgia Tech until the following summer. So I had about 5 or 6 months, and I was still in Blacksburg. I was a substitute teacher in Montgomery County, and did
You were
some of
teaching?
that.
You were teaching? You were
Substitute
teaching?
teacher, yeah. This was back in the days of before you had cell phones. So I'm living in that 4-bedroom apartment at Collegiate Suites, and you remember back then you had your apartment phone with the answering machine. So Montgomery County Public Schools, if they needed a sub every morning at 6 a.m., that phone would start ringing. So my roommates, I think at the time, that was Cyrus and Schnecker, and Ken Handy had moved out. So that would have been Shockley would have been in there. I mean, they hated me because every morning at 6 a.m., that phone just started ringing to be a sub. So I did that for 6 months and then finally got into coaching and had some other opportunities in the media world that I was intrigued by. But I said, you know what, I'm pretty sure I want to do this. Let me get into it. And if it's not, I'll figure it out pretty quickly. But I went to Georgia Tech and started that summer, and one day in, never looked back, and have known that's always what I wanted to do ever since I got into it.
Yeah, and you're in the SEC. And one thing I want to point out, when rumors on Twitter, you know how this goes, the speculation started that you were a head coaching candidate. People from Virginia Tech, the guys like D'Angelo Hall and Brendan Hill, so many guys that knew you as a coach, and even guys, in my level, as far as former players that played with you, were like, hey, they wanted you. But at the same time, South Carolina, all the former players, Lattimore, tons of guys from South Carolina who knew you when you were previously there, advocated for you. It's almost as if, this is my opinion, as if you had the same impact your dad had. Because I remember when seeing you coach the Military Bowl at Virginia Tech, you were chest bumping with J.C. Coleman. He had that record rushing day. He's been on the show, and he talked glowingly about you on my show. And you to see the response that those players at South Carolina who don't play there anymore, they're alumni. Do you feel like you are in that same path? Not running from embracing those expectations, not running from what your dad established.
I would hope so, and I appreciate you saying that. I saw JC's interview with you, and I mean, I got emotional sitting there listening to it with some of the things that he said, and then same thing with this one when my name started getting mentioned and you heard it out there. To hear D'Angelo, to see what D'Angelo tweeted and things like that. I mean, it's was pretty awesome, and I didn't even play with D'Angelo. I've just known him, and then for those guys at South Carolina that were here before to speak out publicly like they did. I told my wife during the process back in December when I'd interviewed for this job, I didn't know if I was going to get offered the job or not, but I remember telling my wife, I said, look, I'm going to be crushed if I don't get offered this job, but it's been so rewarding. Excuse me. It's been so rewarding this entire process to hear so many guys like that have either spoke out publicly or called me privately or wrote letters to the athletic director that I found out after the fact, because to me, it reaffirmed why we coach and the impact that you're able to have on those guys that you maybe don't realize at the time. And those guys at South Carolina, I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary that I felt like I was doing. It was just trying, like Dad talked about, I mean, just trying to treat people right, take an interest in them outside of being a football player, and just trying to be a good person. And that's what I've been my entire career. Like I may not be a lot of things, but at the places I coach, I get really, really, really close with the players that I coach and care about people. And, it was pretty awesome to hear from so many people and reaffirm that regardless of the wins and losses, like Dad was talking about, that you're making an impact on people by the way you treat them.
Coach, before I turn to you, I got to ask Shane, you and I were there in the early stages of Virginia Tech, and then I started looking, and Tyrod Taylor and those guys are winning ACC championships, and, the last 6 years of, Coach Beamer, your dad's years at Tech, I see, because, thank God we didn't have Twitter when I was playing, but I'm looking on Twitter and Facebook, and I see Coach with the hat, and he's in the room dancing and millie whopping and doing all these dances. We didn't get that, Coach. So will you dance when you get a big one in the SEC? Will you, I know you will get turned up. You're emotional and energetic anyway. Will you turn up like your dad when it's your time?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna celebrate victories, that's for sure. So I don't know. We're gonna have fun and be myself for sure. So it'll be fun. I know that. So I think you got to be yourself and be genuine and whatever we got to do. If we're winning SEC football games, I'll certainly be celebrating with the best of them.
No question. And Coach, for the record, I love seeing the dance. We didn't get that. We got up downs. Okay. But
you got the Friday night videos were always good.
Yes, I forgot about that. Those Friday night videos were great. He would get. I don't know how he caught that. He would catch anybody loafing or getting ran over. I remember when you called Lorenzo Ferguson when he got shook by Amos Airway at West Virginia. And he said, "Look, a fruit dog right here," and everybody started chanting "fruit dog." I mean, it was. Those were blessed times, great times, euphoric memories, man. But Coach, I do want to turn to an important year in my life, and I've had Jim Barron and many guys, Hank Coleman from the '95 season. J.C. Price talked about it when he got hired by Coach Fuente at Virginia Tech as a D-line coach to replace Darryl Tapp, and he referenced the '95 season as, an important year. It's not to take away from the '87 team or 2004 team or even, the 2010 team that won the ACC. I mean, every season is unique in its own right. But I want to bring something up, Coach, if you remember this. The '95 season, obviously, we won the Sugar Bowl and we won 10 straight in the season after starting 0-2. But in '95, you really had an impression on me and so many young men, especially the young black men, because Jim Barron reminded me on my show. Unfortunately, we're dealing with some of the same issues now we're dealing with racial tensions and profiling and police brutality. So in Washington, D.C., they were having a 1 Million Man March. And, Jim Barron and Cornell and the leaders of our team that year went into your office. We got a hold of you late at night. You met us, you came in there. And the first thing you said is, if it's important to you guys, it's important to me. And mind you, we're in the middle of a winning streak. Now, mind you, that weekend it happened to fall on a bye week, but still, we're playing for a conference championship and a chance to go to, back then they called them Alliance Bowls. They weren't BCS Bowls. And you even offered to get us, you said, whatever you need. If I need to get you guys bus transportation, you didn't hesitate. And that had an impact on me and so many young men, Jamel Smith, Michael Hawks, not to name everybody because I can't, but that shows what kind of man you were. Do you remember that time in your office? And do again, do you realize how important that was to us?
Yeah, I do remember it very well. And I do remember how important it was. And there's things that are just more important than winning a football game. Mm-hmm. And how a person's life is going and making sure they're getting the freedoms and things that equality. I mean, it's just important that we are like that as a country. And to me, I wanted to see everyone be treated right, and I want to see you guys and our football team be treated right. And so, there was never a question in my mind. If it was important to you guys, it's important to the members of our football team, and it was important to me.
Yeah, and I agree, and that we're thankful for that. It still had an impact on us because that was an important time in our life. And I remember, riding up with all of my teammates to DC to be a part of that, just to educate ourselves on what we can do as men. and we came back and we still won ball games. And that was obviously, it's been stated many, many times and will continue to be, it was a great season, a historic season. But also on that 95 team, you talk about managing, I mentioned managing so many personalities on the football field with all the different characters that come through Blacksburg during their time as players. That 95 team, also, I mentioned this to Cornell and JC on their legacy spotlight, had Al Mason, Bud Foster, Coach Sharpless, Coach Grimes, Steinspring, Tranquil, yourself, and Coach Todd Grantham.
Yeah.
You're talking about some of the most intense, outspoken coaches, and they all respected you. I still remember being on scout team that year. I was a red shirt and dealing with Grantham and Coach, Tranquil and all those different guys going at it.
Yeah.
But they all respect you. They still talk about how they love playing for you. What do you remember about those coaches? I know you can't tell us all the, behind the scenes stories and stuff like that, but what do you remember about coaching with that group, with those guys and not, just their personalities? And was it tough to deal with, or was it just them just competing as coaches?
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot of competition, and I thought it was good. I mean, you get on the field, you respect each other, but you compete. And that's the way your offense gets better, beating your defense. That's the way your defense gets better, beating your offense. And it's not going to happen if you don't compete against each other. So I took it that way. I always made sure it didn't go too far. I can remember a few fights breaking out.
Yeah.
With some of our guys. But I think D'Angelo was a part of those too, by the way. But and Kevin Jones maybe, and but they were just competing against each other and wanting to win. I mean I didn't have any trouble with that. I think that's kind of what makes you into a really good football team. And the other thing that happens, if your best players are the ones that are competing, then all those young guys will follow right along.
Mm-hmm.
If your best players are going the other way, then your young guys will go the other way too. So I thought it was good for our football team, and that we competed against each other so well and made each other better. Because during the season, as you know, we'd always have one or two periods, the best against the best.
Ones against ones.
Yeah. And I thought that was the time that we really had a chance to get better. All the other periods were getting used to motion, how we're going to adjust the motion or a shift or secondary blitzing or whatever. But in that one, it was just true. In that period, it was just true competition.
Yeah. So when you talk about competition and you talk about coaching, you still have a relationship with many coaches even now in Blacksburg, and you see, I think there's something going around. I even shared it on my social media outlets. Pretty much almost all of the Virginia Tech sports are ranked and doing well. Baseball's killing it. Wrestling is third in the country. Women's and men's track. I may omit someone, but overall, the programs are killing it. What are your impressions? I haven't gotten a chance to either meet Mike Young. I've been around Coach Fuente. What are your thoughts on Mike Young and what he's doing with the basketball program? And also, you've been around Coach Fuente and what he's trying to establish at Virginia Tech. What are your thoughts on both those two guys?
Yeah, I think Coach Fuente's, I think they're doing a good job. I got a lot of Tech people back here coaching for him, guys that played for us or that you knew and so forth. Mike Young, when he's available, he walks with John Belen and I. We walk every day at lunchtime around campus. He walks with us when he can, and just got Coach of the Year in the ACC.
Yep.
Well deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Babcock has done a really good job of bringing good coaches in here. And I'll tell you who else, John Belen, the assistant athletic director, and he was my administrative assistant. But he's involved here, and he's in charge of some of those programs that you mentioned that are doing very well. So I think they got good leadership, and they've hired good coaches.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Shane, I just remembered, I'm looking here in my notes. You guys, your program has a game coming up in a year or two or soon against your alma mater. South Carolina is playing Virginia Tech. So I got to ask you, I know you're going to want to win. I know you're a competitor. I've known you since we were young. But are you going to wake up that morning or that week as you prepare for that game? I mean, how do you? I've never been in that position, obviously. I mean, I'm Virginia Tech forever. Like you got Wu Tang forever. I'm Virginia Tech forever. But how do you like? What are your thoughts in preparing for that? I mean, I know you want to win
Yeah.
because I
Nah,
know like
that's so far along or so far down the road. I just hope we can get to the Eastern Illinois game, which is game one here this season, is what I'm focused on. But no, it's a awesome opportunity to play in Atlanta in that game, which those guys do a fantastic job. Gary Stokin and his crew, and looking forward to for South Carolina to be part of it for a lot of different reasons. But then when they told me that was good before it was announced, they told me about a month earlier, and it wasn't like it got scheduled after I was here. It had been in the works, and they got it finalized, and it was like really
mhm.
type thing. So I'll be exciting. It's certainly gonna will be different emotions when that happens, but and you guys know as competitors, once you get into the arena and the game starts, you're not really thinking about who's on the other side and
No question.
all that. And I've been a part of being at different schools. I've been at multiple SEC schools, so I've had to play like my old team and things like that at different times. So I've been a part of it a little bit different this time, playing your alma mater. But there's a few games in between between now and when that one takes place.
Yeah, you mentioned South Carolina in your first game with East Illinois, but just really quickly talk about some of the guys this season because I know it's funny we're in March, but we know as coaches and players the season's going to be upon you like that. And who are some of the guys that you have coming back, and some players that fans and even people that watch the SEC or just college football fans like myself should keep an eye on? Some people that you're really relying on as leaders and players.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure all that out. I mean, we haven't started spring practice yet as we're sitting here recording this, and I'm excited because we got a lot of guys coming back off last year's team, and quarterback returns, and 1,000-yard rusher comes back, and most of our offensive line, and the majority of the receiving course. There's a lot of good pieces that are good players that are coming back, and then we've added quite a few transfers since I took the job. We've got two. We want to continue to, from a recruiting standpoint, get into Virginia and Washington, D.C. and Maryland more so than what South Carolina's done in the past. Because if you want to play SEC football, we're as close to any school out there. If you want to come down I-95 and play. And
Mhm.
we've already got, I guess, 2 or 3 guys on our team from Virginia. We've added 2 transfers from Fredericksburg. They're going to be really good players for us offensively. And we've got some guys from Maryland and Delaware, and want to continue to hit that. So those guys, a transfer from Delaware, 2 transfers from Fredericksburg, and some other guys from across the board that we haven't seen on the field yet because we haven't started spring practice yet. But I'm excited about the group that is returning and the way they're working right now so far in the offseason program.
Yeah, no, that I just love hearing it, and I'm excited for you. I can't say that enough, and I know I've texted you that and DM'd you that. Coach, Coach Beamer, I do want to ask you this. This is on a personal level, and I only have a few more questions left, guys, but I do want to ask you this, Coach. You know, you have had a great career, but on a personal level, doing this joint interview, you see Shane just speaking so well, and he's so passionate, and you have your other child, his sister, and then you have grandkids, and you have your wife. Just talk about how important your family is, because especially for your wife Cheryl, she's been there every step of the way. She was with you, the 0-2 starts, the 2-8-1 seasons, but you have children now who have their own families who are blessed and doing well. I mean, that's got to be overwhelming, right? Just the joy you have just to see that. I mean, because it's not just about sports. I mean, obviously, this is a career, your legacy spotlights, but to have a family in this day and age, especially with so much going on with COVID and different things, because we lose people. We've lost people, Richard Bowen, Poons, Brian Edmonds and Keon Carpenter. So their legacies live on, but at the same time, you're still here in the physical. You have your family. What does it mean, and how important are they to you?
Well, I've really been fortunate. My wife, Cheryl, uh, most caring person I've ever known, and and Shane knows that, and Casey knows that, and just a great lady, and always thinking of other people, and I've been fortunate in that regard. Then our Shane is married a wonderful girl. Casey's married a wonderful guy. They're each of them have 3 kids, and best kids you could ever imagine. So Cheryl and I talk all the time how fortunate, how we've been blessed to have the children and them find a spouse that we're just so proud of, and then to have all the grandkids that we love to death, and and uh, they call Cheryl Baba. So they love Baba like no other, and she loves them. They call me Dad, and I come in second in that deal, though. Baba is for sure number one. But no, I realize how blessed our lives have been.
Yeah, and I got to ask you this now that we're we're older. I know Shane. I've known him a long time, and I see Shane coaching, and he's been in almost feels like every university. That's Oklahoma and all these different schools. But and Shane in high school. Because I know Shane when he got mad with the controller, we playing games, he would throw it down or whatever. But are there any stories, or was Shane always this great young man? Did you ever have to, hey, he came home late, or did he take the car without permission, or did you find out he was in Radford with some girls getting, was there any stories? People want to hear stuff like that. We just know Shane is this coach and great father. Was Shane out there, sometimes Cheryl, I got to talk to him, might have take his keys this weekend. Was there any moments like that, or he's always just a great young man?
I can't think of any. I tell you, Shane was, to me, if he messed up, I didn't know about it. Let me say it that way. So, but I think Shane's always been a guy that treated other people with respect, the things we talked about, and he wasn't. We didn't worry about. Anytime your son is out and he's got a car in high school, or whatever, I think you're concerned, but it wasn't a concern where we were worried about what he's going to be doing tonight. We trusted him, and I think some of you guys maybe can tell me different, but I think he was a pretty good guy.
He was. He's a great guy, but I can tell he was also very skilled at making sure he did what he needed to do or what you saw. I'm not going to tell on him, man. No, he is.
You mentioned Radford. I do remember one time in high school, and this goes back to him as a coach. I was over in Radford one night in high school, and I had to be home whatever time my curfew was, Dwight. I think it was like 11. And I got away from Radford a little bit late, and I remember stopping before cell phones. I stopped at a little gas station over in, I guess it would have been Fairlawn or somewhere right there near the Radford Arsenal. And I remember calling on the payphone, calling home to tell mom and dad that I was going to be a few minutes late, thinking I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to be a few minutes late, and I'm calling to let them know. And I think the response was, I really don't care what the reasons were for why you're late. You're supposed to be home at 11. Your butt better be home at 11. If not, there's going to be repercussions, and there were. So good lesson for me though. But for the most part, I think it was good.
Did you ever, Shane, get involved when, again, I'm not trying to look for hot takes or anything too deep, but did you ever, especially because you were in college and even after you graduated, did you ever talk with your dad about, situations with players that say, hey, coach, trust me, it's not what it seems, or dad, let me speak to you on this because I know what really happened, or do you always keep that separate?
I always kept that separate. I remember Berlin calling me a few times about Keith Short and John Engelberger, some of their stuff. Berlin reached out to me for some inside intel a couple times. But no, I mean, we always just tried to keep it separate, player, coach. And then when we were away from the building, father, son. And And I mean, he knew the guys that I ran around with. I mean, I lived with Chris Cyrus and Tim Schnecker and Ken Handy and Greg Shockley.
Right above me.
And then you and Derek Smith were right downstairs, and Alvaro Torre, the old basketball player.
Oh.
And then I was always over at, Cullen Hawkins and Ryan Smith's place. And it's a good crew of guys. I mean, I think he knew the guys that I ran around with and whatnot. And if there was ever a situation where he needed to be aware of something about a guy for whatever reason, I certainly would have been comfortable. But I can't remember a situation like that ever coming up where we had to do anything like that or talk about that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Engelberger and Short and those guys, and I remember so many stories where, Coach Frank Beam, I know we got into some beef with the wrestling team. And now that I got older, I remember my last few years at Tech, I realized John Berlin and Bruce, they were like undercover. They were that's how he knew everything. Because I remember he found out we got into a beef with the wrestling team. And Coach Beamer came up to the podium and said, look, and he just said, you guys have to be smart. You have to do things the right way. If you're going to fight somebody, go do it off campus. All went crazy. But yeah, John Engelberger.
Go out there with the cows, I think was the old response.
Yeah. The next field over.
Yeah, where nobody sees you, you can go out there and fight all you want with the cows.
Oh my goodness, man. That's why I said there's a lot of personalities, man. Coach, I do want to ask you this. Like I said, just a few more questions. But did you ever? We mentioned players, and you mentioned D'Angelo Hall, and obviously we know about Andre Davis and Michael Vick, Antonio Freeman, Tyrod Taylor, Kevin Jones, Brandon Orr, and Shane. This is you can answer this as well. As coaches, are you so engaged in the game, or do you ever think, wow, like when something the play's happening, like I remember the Nebraska game, they had Ndamukong Suh, and we're going back and forth. We couldn't get anything going on offense. And that was a talented Tyrod Taylor-led team with, Danny Cole and Boykin and those great players. That's one of my favorite games. I was watching that game in Arlington. And I remember when Tyrod Pump left, and he threw the long pass to Cole. And then obviously a few plays later, the game-winning touchdown to Darrell Roberts. The place is going crazy. People are going crazy. Fans are about to fall out the stands. It's so loud. You can hear from the TV. And you go up and grab Tyrod by the face mask. I don't know what you said to him, but how hard is it for you to stay in the moment? Because, I mean, you're talking about watching some of the greatest players in college football history play for you, and you had to keep your composure, especially with all the different things that are going on. Is that a skill you get as you coach, or is that something, some guys are just, that's just how they are?
Yeah, I always felt like for players and assistant coaches to have faith in me that I needed to be steady, not get too high or not get too low, but be somewhere in the middle and be in control. And so that's what I always tried to do on the sideline. But I think the moment you were talking about, that was one that just so much emotions coming out that you showed it a little bit. But and we did. We had some great moments and great celebrations. The greatest time to me was celebrating with the players in the locker room after we had a great win, and the togetherness and the love and all those things that you felt. And so yeah, I remember a lot of those, and we were very, very fortunate to have a lot of great moments during that period of time.
Do you remember what you said to Tyrod when you grabbed his face mask? Do you remember what you said?
I don't. I think I was just kind of babbling at that point. I don't remember exactly, no.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I know they went for 2 after that, but I don't know. And then after the game, you spazzed and snapped on the fans when you were doing the interview. I don't know if it was Holly Rowe, but you were trying to do a post-game interview, and then the fans came and said, "Get out of here, get out of here." And I was like, man, I said, please don't make Coach mad, because he'll make the fans run. He'll make them run up the stadium. Shane, same thing with you, man. You've been in some great programs, Big 12, SEC. You actually, you get into the game. I mean, you run on the field and do chest bumps and tackle guys by the helmet. Is that a style you're going to keep while you're at South Carolina? Is it something where you actually feel like, I'm going to enjoy these moments?
Yeah, I think you certainly got to enjoy being out there and you got to take on your personality, but Dad is right. I mean, you've got to be steady and in control with the good moments and the bad moments because, I could do that as an assistant. Not that I'm not right now. I mean, I'm still going to be myself and I'm going to be passionate and I love coaching my guys and seeing them make plays and have success. So I won't lose the joy of watching that. But certainly, as the head coach, you realize that all eyes are on you right now, and you've always got to be in control. And there's always the next play too. So no matter what's going on around you, good and bad, there's always the next play that you got to be ready for. Either you score a touchdown and it's the kickoff, or something bad happened and now you got to get the ball back and things like that. So under control, but I'll never stop being passionate and having fun out there with great energy. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I wanna give you an opportunity, speaking of the passion, to talk about where you see yourself as far as now as a head coach and where you see yourself ultimately. Like, not so much, I'm not talking about you want to be an AD one day, but what is your mission and vision for South Carolina?
Just to continue to just advance this program forward each day and win championships. And I was here before I came back to coach at Virginia Tech. I was here for 4 years where we recruited guys like Melvin Ingram and Alshon Jeffrey and Stephon Gilmore and DJ Swearinger and Jadavion Clowney and Connor Shaw and all these great players that had great NFL careers, and a lot more that I probably didn't name that I left out. And was here when we played Auburn and Cam Newton for the SEC championship. And that was a start of a period where South Carolina beat Clemson 5 years in a row, had three straight seasons of 11 wins or more. So, I mean, I saw where it could be done, and you have all the resources here to be successful. Otherwise I wouldn't have, taken this job. This football facility that I'm doing this interview in is a couple years old and one of the best, if not the best in the entire country, and great academics, great place to live, great state to live in, unbelievable passion and unbelievable fan base in our stadium and across the world. So I'm excited about what we can accomplish because I feel like we can do everything here, and excited about the resources and the support we have to do it. So really, I know it's cliche, but literally it's just every day, just try and get a little better and keep moving this thing forward and take it 1 year at a time. Because, you mentioned it earlier in this interview that it's what have you done for me lately? And every year is different. And right now we're just trying to be the best 2021 football team we can be. And then, we'll worry about 2022 when we get into it. But I'm excited, really excited about the people that are here with me, the staff we've been able to put together and where we're headed.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And now we come to the point in the show where I'm going to ask you, Shane, I'll let you go first, and then your dad, Coach. You mentioned where you're going, how excited you are, your vision for the program, life lessons. You heard your dad talk about regrets and memories, great moments, highs and lows. You were there. You saw your dad build that program along with Coach Gentry and Steinspring and Bustle and Grantham. So many great coaches, brick by brick. Where the lunch pail became an iconic figure. Lane Stadium, the entrance. The Hokie Bird. What has the game, though, for you, Shane, as a player, as a coach, life in general? What has it taught you? And what would you tell a young and upcoming Shane Beamer who's following your footsteps? What would you tell them?
Oh man, good question. So many lessons, and a lot of them we've touched on, during this call, and to me, it's just the steadiness. One of his sayings that I still say all the time is, don't get too high, don't get too low. Reality is somewhere in the middle, and I believe that as a coach, a husband, a father, a friend, just trying to live my life with that steadiness. That's one thing me as a head coach, and I'm trying to do here in this role. And then just, treat people right. And I talk to our players and people all the time about just, treating people right and being the same person all the time. And I say this all the time about Dad, that he's the same guy today as we're doing this call as he was in 1999 when we played for the national championship, as he was in 1992 when we won 2 games. And and just that humility where he never changed as a person, and treat people right along the way. Because not to narrow it down like in regards to my coaching career, but that's had a lot to do with where I am today, just treating people right, and developing relationships with people. And whether they can help you in your career and along the way or not, just every step you are, be around people, the people you're around, I mean, just treat them right and be a good person. And everything else kind of takes care of itself, would be the advice that I'd give a young guy. And then just that work ethic that you got to have, and just trying to be the first guy in the building, the last one to leave, and have things done before your boss, whoever it may be, your head coach or assistant coach that you're working for at the time, try and have things done before they even ask for them. And just be.
Yeah. And coach, same question. You're in the Hall of Fame. You won conference championships. You did take Virginia Tech to a national championship game. I know you regret not going back, but obviously that doesn't change anything about your impeccable legacy as a father, mentor, husband, and a leader still in our community. What would you tell, not just, I know you have talks with Shane, but other coaches now in the profession? What has the game taught you about yourself, and what advice would you take from that life lesson and pass on to up and coming coaches and even fathers following in your footsteps?
Well, I think Shane hit it, and by the way, we're so proud of him because he is who he is, and all those jobs we mentioned. He never once asked me to help him. I mean, he's done it himself and made his own future there. He's done things on his own. But I think you got to live your life every day, and don't change. I'm not something tomorrow that I wasn't today. And that's what I preach to our players here and our coaches. You are who you are, and make sure you're going in the right direction as far as treating people right and with respect. And if you do that, then I think the outcome you got to accept it. And that's kind of the way that I tried to live my life, and it's the way I tried to teach other people that I've been associated with.
Absolutely. And again, I can't thank you enough, Coach. I just want to say this. When I posted this, so many people text me, wanted me, I can't even name them all. Not just players, but fans, on Twitter and Facebook to tell you hello, they love you. I love you. We appreciate you. I appreciate you coming to Hampton, VA, and getting me the first Vic at Virginia Tech. I'm still waiting on that.
Hey,
I'm still waiting on the kickback. The biggest
Vic. Gotcha. The first Vic and the biggest Vic.
And Shane, I can't thank you enough, man. I remember riding to the first ever Music City Bowl. You said, hey, let's go, guys. We were living in Collegiate Suites. We need to leave. There's a Northeastern coming, a bad snowstorm. And you drove all night. We got there and we checked into the hotel, but it was so many more memories with the Gator Bowl and so many things. But this is what it's about. And I appreciate you jumping on the Legacy Spotlight. And I just want to wish you both many blessings. And thank you to you both for jumping on. And again, I appreciate you. And Shane, I can't wait to see you, Coach.
No, I appreciate you saying that. It's a thrill for me to be on with you guys, and appreciate all you're about, Dwight, and your friendship, and glad you're doing these things. I've loved watching them and being able to catch up with so many names of Virginia Tech athletics that you've had on here, and can't wait for the next one as well. And you talk about things I've learned. I think I definitely need to bring back the V-neck sweater with the mock turtleneck in the team pictures like Dad has over his right shoulder of you when you were a player. I think that would be pretty sweet for these guys down here in South Carolina to use.
Yeah, man. I still remember those pictures, man. That was I probably looked angry in that picture because I knew we had conditioning later.
It was in style at one time.
Yeah. Well, everything comes back, so it might come back, man. But, no, again, thank you both. Shane, good luck this season. And to all the supporters of the Beeman family and the fans of Virginia Tech and South Carolina, On behalf of you, the coaches, I say thank you for supporting this spotlight. And like I say every episode, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you have a positive impact. You leave a great legacy. Thank you, Coach. Coach
Bryant,
Beamer.
I'm so proud of you, guy.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, Coach. Thank you. It means a lot.
Yeah. Thanks, Dwight.
Thank you.